Requiem, an act of token or remembrance, and also the subtitle to Resident Evil 9, just announced at the Summer Games Fest, and I could not be more happier. Welcome everybody, you've been working all day and now it's after work. I'm Joe, and let's break down this trailer and also come out with some wild theories to Resident Evil 9. There very may well be some things we talk about here today that might actually tie into Resident Evil 9. So let's take a look. Let's break things down. And I also want to hear your theories. No rumors, just your personal theories, because I want to get crazy with this. I've never done one of these theory videos before, or like breakdown videos to this level. But considering that this is Resident Evil and it's one of my favorite survival horror games of all time, we got to do it at least for the one time. And if you enjoy it here, give it a like, subscribe, share with your friends, and let them know what we do here. We're generally playing games after work, and we also do a lot of reviews here. So we got all that out of the way. Let's get it started. So let's start off with what our potential facts are. And I say potential only because we've been debated once in the middle of a press conference yesterday, but it does appear that Grace Ashcroft is the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft, who was a character in Resident Evil Outbreak. She was a journalist. Her name's come up a couple times throughout the main series, mainly the Baker household in RE7. You do see a newspaper clipping of what she was doing some journalism on. We'll get to that much later, because it seems like she died 8 years prior to this game's events. And Resident Evil games generally tend to come out and take place the same years that they're released, at least since Resident Evil 5 as far as the main line goes. No spin-offs. And it appears that we are going to be returning to Raccoon City. Now let's get a little bit deeper into this. So I have 4 questions that I'm going to pose. We're going to take them one at a time, and I'm going to give y'all a breakdown and what I think may be the answer to these questions. We'll start off with a quick one. Who the enemy could be coming out of the ceiling. Now, I've already seen, and even myself personally, for a split second, I thought, oh, that'd be kind of neat too. I don't believe it's going to be Lisa, but I do like the chain setup. She's they are too lanky coming out of that ceiling. I think Lisa is a one and done. It's one of those characters that she was there for a moment and, you know, she got her mama's mask. She died happy. She fell off a cliff. So I think that is null and void there. However, I do believe that they were just showing this as a new enemy type, or it could be like the Lady Demetress situation, where this is the first chapter of the game and the things coming out after you for the first act, possibly, or it could be multiple enemies of this type that's coming out of the ceiling, right? I wouldn't read too far into it, but let's get even more crazy, right? Because in Resident Evil Outbreak, 2 spin-off games I haven't played, but I've seen way more than enough of. There are enemies that drop down from the ceiling, and I believe they're supposed to be like a precursor to becoming a licker, and this very may well be a different experimentation of that form of whatever is run down in the lab that this came from. More on that part later. Our next question, we're going on in hot, y'all, and get ready for this one. Who is the hooded individual? I think we may have our answer already, and it's within Resident Evil 7 and 8. The final living member of Umbrella and the founder of the Connections, Bradley Bailey. Bailey would make trips to Africa to collect fresh samples of the progenitor flower for Oswald Spencer, so James Marcus, our bad evil guy from Resident Evil 0, could continue his experiments stateside for Umbrella. Now, although the facilities would be shut down in '98 due to the Raccoon City incident, his whereabouts or death were never confirmed until RE8, where it would be found in a document that he was in fact the founders of the Connections. Who wrote that? We'll save that for the end. Now, although Bailey's location has yet to be confirmed, we know a few things. The Connections started up as far back as the year 2000. Bailey was given a sample of the mold directly from Mother Miranda in hopes of resurrecting her daughter, Ava. Obviously, we saw how that went and how the mold was actually used. And for those who are wondering where I'm pulling that out of, these are documents from Resident Evil 5. So we have tie-ins to RE5 specifically, bringing in the introduction of Bradley Bailey, and RE7, or technically RE8, telling the document of what happened in between and the exposing of who the actual leader is in RE8's deluxe edition, I think it was, where that document gets pulled from. Question number 3, where does this game take place? So based on the trailer, we at least know one location being the Renwood Hotel, which very may well have been somewhere in the outskirts of Raccoon City itself, or directly within, considering how run down some of the areas in the trailer look. It does seem like they created a Chernobyl situation out of Raccoon City, where it must be like a restricted zone of some sort, or completely abandoned by the government, considering how destroyed everything looks. Also, if you look back at the overview shot of the city, you can see the Arklay Mountains in the background, so I wonder if that'll have any areas we can explore in the game as well, or if that was more for a scenic shot. I'm leaning towards the latter, but it would be pretty cool considering the things that they did with Resident Evil 8, with having the one hub area and then you venturing out to all these different locations throughout. The other wild theory I have is, since there's clearly experimentations running about in this area, and if I were to guess, these aren't happening in flashback sequences, Umbrella's facility, which runs underneath a monstrous portion of Raccoon City, may very well be used in particular areas, or at least some working or repaired equipment being used in some form or fashion. Hell, Bailey probably could have paid someone off to have equipment delivered, rebuild portions of the facilities underneath, and continued his own experiments utilizing both Miranda's Mutamycete and Spencer's T-Virus. And if you want to get even more crazier, Birkin's G-Virus may have lasted somewhere down there in a vial or two. They can retcon things. We're returning to Raccoon City. Let's get out there, you know? It made it into the CGI movies. They might as well bring it back here, you know? You've seen like a standard zombie looking enemy in there, so clearly there's some form of T-Virus, maybe modified at this point. It has been almost 20 years from the point of the Raccoon City incident, where we're seeing something maybe a little bit more controlled. You could also be using these samples to create new experiments with whoever is being kidnapped, because that's a running theme throughout the entire series, but specifically 7 and 8 for this matter. B, random people who are sneaking into places they shouldn't be, like Clancy Jarvis and his film crew in 7. Or C, people who keep playing close to the field of old Umbrella or the connections like Alyssa once did. And now Grace. And now question number 4, will there be more than one main character? To circle this all back to the beginning, Grace Ashcroft appears to be our main protagonist of this story, and what kind of act of remembrance to her mother Alyssa remains to be seen, and how close she was to discovering whatever it was about the connections that she passed away 8 years prior to the start of this game. If we're to assume that the mainline RE games have been released in the past, they've generally taken place the same year they've released since Resident Evil 5. This would put us in 2018, the year after the events of RE7. And a side note, she was looking into missing persons cases for the 20 people that were mysteriously disappearing in Louisiana as early as January 19th of 2016. Take that bit of info however you will, but it's very possible for her to have played too close to the connections, therefore either her being got by the connections or becoming an experimentation. So we can either get flashback sequences of Alyssa in more than just cutscene form, or I'm just trying to stay away from the rumor mill, but if Leon really is to play any part in coming back, since RPD was shown off for a decent amount of time within that trailer, we could see him play the Chris Redfield role in this game. Because, you know, everyone seems to hate my girl Claire, and Ada could be the one transferring these samples around, who knows? I'm just talking out my yazoo now. And someone correct me if I'm wrong, but if we want to get even more wild with it, this is coming back from the beginning of this video, I think the person who wrote the BSAA report on outing Bradley Bailey as the founder of the leader of the connections was Zoe Baker. So we can really tie back to RE7 pretty heavy with this game without the Winters' involvement at this point, especially if Rose would be only 6 at this point in the RE timeline. Anyway, that's some food for thought, and again, I don't really do theory videos, but I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and being that my content started off with Resident Evil and it's so tied to my gaming history on survival horror side of things as well, I felt like I had to take a jab at giving my thoughts on all of this post Summer Games Fest. I am so hyped. I saw that trailer happen in real time and my gears were going, and so many questions popped into my head. I'm sure you all have questions as well. I cannot wait for Gamescom to see some more of this footage. There's supposed to be more stuff then, So we got a couple of months before that happens. Let me know all of your pie in the sky theories, no rumors, but theories, and maybe we can do a follow-up and just have fun with it in general. It doesn't have to be something so deeply rooted, so let's have fun with games here. I'm always streaming on Twitch, and sometimes I'll multi-stream here on YouTube, but you can always catch all my shorts content here and the occasional review. Right now, I'm working on Onimusha 2 at the moment. I had to take a pause because like Switch 2 came out. I'm a big Nintendo head. Like, there's been so many things in gaming these last few days. The state of play stuff is up. I'll leave links to all those videos in the description down below if y'all want to check it out. If you're new to the channel, you can kind of get an idea of what it is we do here. So stay tuned for all of that. And until next time, this is Joe clocking out. Take care. Love y'all.